So, yeah, good evening, class. Last class, we have seen that I gave a clear idea in the last class. I hope regarding this, yeah, regarding this Harshavardhan, after the downfall of Harshavardhan too, how India faced the um, Arab invasion. That part we discussed in the last class. Okay, I hope you got that socio-economic, cultural, and position of women. What was the development of the Brahminical society once again emerged? What is the condition of the women during that time? That all part we completed during last class. Today we are going to see how the Arabs invaded India. So 712 AD, particularly 712 AD. Last class also I told you we are considering ancient India between Indus Valley civilization to Arab invasion of Sindh. So this Arab invasion of Sindh occurred in particularly that is none other than 712 AD for the first time. They came before that, but a particular invasion started in 712 AD. That's why we are considering ancient India up to 712 AD. 712 AD to 1757 we can consider as the medieval period. During this time, we divided India into two parts. One is called as the Sultanate period. Sultanate period means they were as they came from the Arab and Muslim invader. They particularly ruled India only northern part. Delhi was the center of administration, and they did not go beyond that. Of course, during Delhi Sultanate, we know that Malik Kafur, one of the general of Alauddin Khilji, he tried to come to South India for a few times, but he was not so succeed. That's why we are considering that entire part, five periods. I mean the five dynasty we can say. Very popularly, we are calling that is a slave dynasty. Another is the Khilji dynasty, Lodi dynasty. Okay, we are going to discuss today. Chalo. Let us start the Arab invasion. In the last class, just 2 minutes, last 2 minutes, I told how Arab was invaded. But let us begin from that part. Okay. Yeah, chalo. Arab invasion of Sindh. I hope get ready with one small running notes because some words are a little bit difficult. We have to note down that. Okay. Chalo. If you'll see the development of Islam into India, it started with the Arab invasion. Arab invasion Sindh. Sindh means nothing new, no new country, nothing. India only by that time called as the Sindh or Indus Valley civilization or Sindhu river Indus, or that was also called as the Sindhu. So that's why that area was called as the Sindh region. And present Afghanistan, Balochistan, that all Pakistan and India, Punjab, that northwestern part, entire northwestern province. By that time, it was called as the Sindh region. I hope it is clear, right? So, for the first time, the Arabs. Arab means who were they? So, nearby that Iraq, Iran, or Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, from those area, those people they migrated to Afghanistan and then Hindu Kush, and then they migrated to Punjab and Haryana and Rajasthan, and then they settled down in the Delhi. So, how do they came to India and how they able to rule India? That we are going to discuss. 712 AD. Arab traders settled in the through the Arab traders, they had settled in Kerala even before. In the beginning of 18th century, if you'll see me, 8th century, 700 to 800, 8th century, which is called as 700 AD to 800 AD, the king of Lanka sent 8 ships full of gift to the Khalifa of Baghdad. These ships were plundered by Dahir. Please note down Dahir. Dahir, who was the Dahir? A Hindu Raja of Sindh. Please note down. Dahir was the Sindhu, which is called as India by the time. Hindu Raja of Sindh region near Dewal, and Arab army general Muhammad bin Qasim attacked Sindh due to take revenge against that. Okay, Dahir was attacked by Muhammad bin Qasim, or we can say to take the revenge against that, Muhammad bin Qasim, one of the general of that Arab, he attacked Sindh and defeated Dahir. The Arab overran the whole of the Sindh but could not advance further. only Sindh. Well, I told what is the Sindh region, northwestern province. Okay, northwestern province. That was by the time called as the Sindh. Okay, Muhammad bin Qasim recalled by the Khalifa in 712 AD. This incident occurred in 712 AD. So 714 AD, he went back to Arab, and the Arab influenced India, and then he died in and around that area. After that, the Arab authority came to India, and then they tried to rule India. Okay, this is how the Arab invasion occurred India in 712 AD. Now, these Arabs, what did they do? Sindh became the source of most of the source of earning, or that is none of them different type of rich. Okay, so the Indians learned many things from the Arab. Arab merchant settled in several parts of the west coast of India, along with that Kerala. Gradually, the Indian traders began to supply goods to the Arab traders rather than carry them directly to the Western countries. Thus, a trade between India and West became indirect. So this is how we had a good relation with the Arabs. Okay, then the Indian traders in the Central Asia, as we read last class, trade relations, Silk Route and all this. I hope you remember that all. How the even Western countries they came through China, they took all the important species and the important stones. Silk Route, last class we completed. I don't want to repeat once again. So there was a good relation by that time. What we know last class, Indians they worked on this trade. Along with that, even other relation like philosophy and other subject also translated into Arabic. Indian philosophical work were translated into Arabic religion. Indian tales from the Panchitandra and all this. Like that, there was a good relation between India and Arab. But India or the entire India was not ruled by them. They made one attack. They tried to extend their culture, tradition, trade, and all these things, but never they tried to rule India. So this was continued 712 AD to this exchange of culture continued till 1100 um, 92. Yeah. Now, why 1191-92? Because 1192 and 91 and 92, there was an important war. It is none other than the Battle of Tarayan. Yeah, Battle of Tarayan. And this Battle of Tarayan, some books it is even written as a Tirori. Battle of Tarayan or Battle of Tirori. Until that, 700, please note down that 712 AD to 1191-92, because 1191 first battle of Tarayan, 1192 second battle of Tarayan, and these two battles were fought between Muhammad of Ghor. There was a region, Ghor dynasty, and he was called as Mahmud of Ghor, which is popularly in India called as Muhammad of Ghori. And he migrated by that time in India. There was Rajasthan. We read last class also. I told how the importance of the Rajasthan dynasty or the Rajputs. Okay, last class we discussed that. So by that time, Rajput were ruling North India. There was no unity. By taking that advantage, one of the popular ruler was there, Prithviraj Chauhan. Okay, so there was a war between this Muhammad of Ghori and Prithviraj Chauhan, and that war, they did not follow the principles, and finally Prithviraj Chauhan defeated in the Muhammad of Ghori, and then Muhammad of Ghori established the administration. So this was one of the turning point or the landmark we can say, Battle of Tarayan. But 712 AD to 1900, 1191, they came frequently. They kept the trade relation. Otherwise, we can say they exploited Indian resource. Okay, but they never tried to rule India. They started ruling India only 1192 AD. Okay, I hope it is clear. Next, invasion of Muhammad of Ghazni between 712 AD to 1192. Another after the Arabs, another ruler was none other than Muhammad of Ghazni. I hope it is a little bit familiar. You have little idea on that. Sindh invasion. A large part of northern India was invaded and plundered by Mahmud of Ghazni. An independent kingdom with the capital of Ghazni was established by Turkish slave. He was a slave of Turk dynasty. Okay, Alpid Gin. Alpatgin. He was a slave of a Alpatgin in the 10th century. He was succeeded by his slave. Okay, Saptakgin. Please note down the names. Alpatgin, the ruler. His slave was Muhammad of Ghazni. He came to India, and then his main intention not to rule India. His main intention was to explore wealth. That was the main. Okay, Mahmud ascended the throne of Ghazni 998 AD. 990 AD to 1030 AD, near about 32 years. This Muhammad of Ghazni came to India near about 17 times. He ruled up to 1030, but last I think Somnath temple. Okay, chalo, note down, please note down. Muhammad of Ghazni, time period 998 AD to 1030 AD. During that time, he invaded India. Within his 25 years, he invaded 17 times. His main objective was not to rule India, but to exploit Indian wealth and resource. Particularly, his target was Indian Hindu temples. Okay, I hope you know this one because the temple was yeah, source of wealth, and that's why he plundered most of the Indian temples. Okay, Muhammad had hardly any religious zeal or Islam. He never came to India for spreading of religion or anything. He only tried to yeah, exploit or plunder the temples to take the wealth. That only. Muhammad made 17 raids on India. 1717. First raid was directed against the Hindustani Buddhist ruler Jaipal. Please note down. First, he made a rule, visited to the Hindu as well as Buddhist ruler Jaipal, whose territories were extended up to Punjab to modern Afghanistan, present Punjab and northwestern part. Jaipal defeated in 1001. That was the first. Between 1001 to in and around 1025, within this 25 years, he made 17 times, right? I hope you're writing. Yeah, next. In 1008-9, near Peshawar, he met with another ruler. He was none other Anandpal. He fought with Anandpal. The Muslim ruler of Multan also supported to Anandpal, but all they defeated. Similarly, Mahmud, he raided Nagarkot near Kagra, Thaneswar near Delhi. Multan was annexed. Yeah, he attacked the Multan region 1010 AD. I hope you're writing. Muhammad also went to Kannauj in 1018 AD, and finally, it was none other than 1025 AD. He attacked the Somnath temple in Gujarat. In this campaign, he plundered both Mathura, Kannauj, Somnath, okay, the richest temples of India. He got immense wealth and he went. Chalo. His episode completed. He came and he went. Only he exploited Indian wealth. He destroyed number of temples. Okay, North Indian temple mostly. And he went. He had neither intention to rule India nor any intention to spread of religion. Okay, so that was the Muhammad of Ghazni. After Muhammad's invasion, exposed to India inherent weakness, and then another most important ruler we able to find, he was none other than Muhammad of Ghori. After the Ghazni, we able to get Muhammad of Ghori. So children don't get confused. Ghazni, Ghori, these all are the areas, capitals or the kingdom, as we are calling that Afghanis or the Turkish ruler like that. Ghazni was the capital city. As he came, Mahmud or Muhammad, he came from Ghazni. That's why he was popularly called as Muhammad of Ghazni. Similarly, Muhammad of Ghori means he came from the Ghor region. These all are in the northwestern part. Okay, no need to confuse. Okay, Many scholars lived during this. Yeah. Now let us come to Muhammad of Ghori. One of the interesting thing, if you see during the Muhammad of Ghazni, we have an important resource or the source of history from Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni, please note down his name. Al-Biruni was a great scholar who visited India during this Muhammad Ghazni's period, and he has written so many accounts of India, and that is one of the important source of history during that time, right? Yeah. After Al-Biruni, Alberuni, Al-Biruni. Similarly, Firozsi, another ruler, Arabic ruler, he also came to India, and he had written one Persian epic called Sahanama, a biography of Muhammad. These are the important. Firdausi, spelling I'm telling, Firdausi. Firdausi, he was another Arabic ruler who came to India, and he visited, and he has written Persian. He has written one book called Sahanama. Sahanama, Shahanama. Sahanama. It was the biography of Muhammad of Ghazni. Similarly, Al-Biruni, I hope you people have written that. Chalo. So this is what the Muhammad of Ghazni and his expedition of India. Next, after the Muhammad of Ghazni, let us come to Muhammad of Ghori. I hope it is clear and helpful, because I'm not repeating a single sentence. It is not that difficult, I think. Chalo. Next, after that, Muhammad of Ghori, if you see, Mahmud succeed like his brilliance in 1173. Please note down. In 1173, Muhammad of Ghor, a small kingdom in Afghanistan, captured by Ghaznavis, and then turned his attention to India. He invaded India many times. His intention was not to plunder but to conquer. Who came to India, he was quite different than the Muhammad of Ghazni. Muhammad of Ghazni, we know that he came to India only for plundering or taking the wealth. But Muhammad of Ghor, his intention was to establish the dynasty in India. He wanted to establish Indian, expand his empire in India. With that intention, he came, and he made several visits. And by that time, as I told you, Rajputs were there, and there was Rajput important rulers, and they had no unity. And that disintegration or inter war between the Rajput made a golden opportunity for this Muhammad of Ghor to conquer India. Let us see what happened to Muhammad of Ghor. He came several times, and Muhammad invaded India to plunder the wealth Ghori. He conquered a large part of India and established a empire in India. That was his motto. He is considered as the real founder of the Turkish rule in India. They are belongs to the Arab and the Turkey. So the Turkish rule establisher, founder of Turkish rule in India, that credit goes to Muhammad of Ghori. Yeah. As we know, children, North India by that time, during this 712 AD to, we can say that Battle of Tirori, there was no paramount power in the North India, though there were several Rajput rulers were there, and they had no unity, and that was the golden opportunity, as I told you. The Rajput did not learn anything from the Muhammad's raid. They unable to unite themselves. And in this struggle for the power, there was one of the important ruler. He was none other than Prithviraj Chauhan, the ruler of Delhi and Ajmer, engaged as the most powerful Didan ruler. Okay, when Ghori came to India, Muhammad Ghori campaigned India. By that time, he planned skillfully organized. He defeated Muslim rulers of Sindh, then Ghaznavi rulers in the Ghaznavi rulers in the Punjab, and he attacked Gujarat, but he defeated in the Gujarat. But later on, as I told you, there was a battle between these two rulers, Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori. Please note down. 1191, Tarayan, Tarain, Tirori or Tarayan. This is a place. The Ghori force were rooted. The Muhammad Ghori's life was saved by a young Khilji soldier, Prithviraj did not make any attempt to capture Punjab. Muhammad Ghori was not the man to frightened by one defeat. He again attacked Prithviraj Chauhan. And during this second war, they did not follow this. Muhammad Ghori came to know what are the rules, regulation of war, and how Indians were following some principles, okay, regarding the war. But the second war, 1192, when he attacked, by the time he obey all the rules and regulations of Indian warfare, and he betrayed and he did not follow. Anyhow, by hook or crook, he wanted to defeat Prithviraj Chauhan, and he did that. In the Indian army was a large number of Rajput force, but Prithviraj Chauhan escaped to capture. Soon after, he was killed. The second battle in the Tharayan regarded as one of the turning point in the history of India. As I told you that after this battle of Tharayan, second battle of Tharayan, of course, 1192, India uh, ruled by the foreigners. Okay, of course, Muhammad of Ghori captured Delhi, but that was the foundation, pillar of foundation for the foreign rule in India. Okay. Next, the Ghoris defeated Jaichand, then occupied Kannauj in 1194. Please note down. Muhammad of Ghori defeated Jaichand of Kannauj. After Muhammad of Prithviraj Chauhan 1992, he defeated even the Kannauj 1994. Then the Rathors of Kannauj later founded the kingdom of Mewar. The Battle of Tarayan and occupation of Kannauj laid the foundation of Turkish rule in India, and Muhammad Ghori was now the master of Delhi, Ajmer, and Kannauj. This is how, children, we know the establishment of Turkish dynasty in India by defeating this Battle of Tarayan. So that's why this is Battle of Tarayan 1192. Another turning point battle was none other than 1757. Battle of Plassey and Battle of another is a Buxar. Yeah, Battle of Plassey 1757 and Battle of Buxar 1764. Because this Battle of Tarayan established the Delhi Sultanate, and Battle of that is none other than 57, 50, 64, that established the British rule in India, completely changed. Okay, another important 1526 Battle of Panipat, that was to change the Delhi Sultanate into Mughals. So please try to remember these three landmarking wars in India. I hope it is clear, right? Now, Muhammad Ghori returned to home and left behind his general Qutbuddin Aibak. Qutbuddin Aibak, he completed his task to conquest, and he conquered all the Kannauj and all this. Okay. Next, after the establishment of Turkish dynasty, Qutbuddin Aibak, he um, ruled India, and Qutbuddin Aibak, he continued till few more days. But let us see one interesting thing. In 1206, please note down, Muhammad Ghori led to his last campaign into India and suppressed the Kokar rebellion. Kokar rebellion. Please note down. The last invasion of Muhammad of Ghori to India was, please note down, the last invasion of Muhammad Ghori to India was 1206 AD. And he suppressed the Khokhar, Khar rebellion. This is important, objective point of view. Ghori was murdered by the band of Khokhars. He had no son. So, as I told you, he appointed his one of the General Qutbuddin Aibak. To be frank, Qutbuddin Aibak was one of the slave of Muhammad of Ghori. So, as he trusted him, then after the murder or the death of Muhammad of Ghori, Qutbuddin Aibak became the ruler of Delhi. Qutbuddin Aibak. Please note down. You know that, I hope. This is easy. Qutbuddin Aibak, and then Iltutmish. Then we are going to get about Rajia Sultan. So please note down that. And they had a great contribution. I hope it is a little bit familiar with us, because Qutub Minar in Delhi, Qutub Minar in Delhi, that was started by Qutbuddin Aibak and completed by Iltutmish. I hope it is a little bit familiar and little bit easier to understand. Okay. Chalo, Qutbuddin Aibak. Muhammad bin, yeah, Qutbuddin Aibak, he became the ruler, independent ruler. He declared himself the independent ruler of Delhi. In the struggle, Qutbuddin came to be the victorious. Anyhow, he uh, declared as the ruler. But it was not so easy for Qutbuddin Aibak, but he faced some other Afghans in India. Suppose there was a Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar, one of the Bengal, and Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar, like that. So many rulers they wanted to remove Qutbuddin Aibak, but Qutbuddin Aibak proved that he was the strongest ruler. Anyhow, we now came to know that Qutbuddin Aibak became the ruler of India. Yeah, this Qutbuddin Aibak, how he ruled. Let us go to Qutbuddin Aibak and 1206. But unfortunately, what happened in 1212 AD, Qutbuddin Aibak also died. He unable to rule for a long time. As a result, he is one of the general. He was none other than, uh, yeah, Iltutmish. Let us see Qutbuddin Aibak and this Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish and Rajia Sultan. These all are called as a slave dynasty by Indian scholars. Slave dynasty because this Qutbuddin Aibak was the slave of Muhammad of Ghori. Iltutmish was the slave of the Qutbuddin Aibak. Like that. That's why they general term for understanding they gave the what is it slave dynasty. But in fact, that is not slave dynasty, children. That is called as the Ilvari dynasty. Please note down Ilvari dynasty. Most of our Indian historians, in most of the books, they have written that slave dynasty. Unfortunately, we are remembering that slave dynasty, but Ilvari dynasty you can remember. And this Ilvari dynasty ruled India between 1206. As I told you, the death of Muhammad of Ghori, 1206 to 1290. 90. Please note down. Okay, this 86, 84 years in and around India witnessed by the Ilvari dynasty. Please don't mention slave dynasty anywhere. If you're getting in the question paper, no problem. You can go. I don't think that in the question paper they will give such a slave dynasty. In fact, it is Ilvari dynasty. Ilbari, Ilvari dynasty. The earliest ruler of the Delhi Sultanate were known as the Ilbari kingdoms or the Ilbari kings because they belongs to the Ilbari Turk tribe. Unfortunately, most of the Indian historians they are writing in their book as a slave dynasty because of the conqueror or the as I told you. Okay, the word is used to distinguish the important Turkish slave meant chiefly of the military service from the humble servant. That's why they are using as a slave leave it, that is slave dynasty will not go for that. The sultans were highly talented leaders and they rose to the top based upon their own quality or bravery. Qutbuddin Aibak, as I told you, he ruled 1206 to 1211. Okay, while he was playing polo, he fell down from a horse and he died. Anyhow, that you don't remember, but this is the Indian, according to Indian historians. After the death of Muhammad of Ghori, his victory, Qutbuddin Aibak became the independent ruler of India. A pious Muslim, he gave large sum of money in charity, gaining the name of different type of rulers or giver of the lakh bucks. He was also, please note down, this is important, who was regarded as a lakh bucks in India, which Sultanate ruler famous as lakh bucks in India. Yeah, he was none other than Qutbuddin. Lakh bucks means what? Lakh means lakhs of rupees. Bucks karna means donate, the giver of the lakhs of rupees. That's why he earned the title in India as a lakh bucks. While giving alms, he made no distinction between the Hindu or the Muslim. He built famous Quat al-Islam Mosque at Delhi. Please note down. Quat al-Islam Mosque in Delhi. Please note down. QUW hyphen WAT hyphen UL hyphen Islam. Quat al-Islam Mosque. Till now it is there in Delhi. He began to conquest of the famous he started for the construction, as I told you, Qutub Minar at Delhi, but he unable to complete as he died earlier. So that was completed by Iltutmish. It is believed that Iltutmish was the son-in-law of Qutbuddin Aibak. Okay, succeed to throne 1211 AD. Now, after the Qutbuddin Aibak, so many important things we have come across with Qutbuddin Aibak. Next, Iltutmish. He was the son-in-law. Yeah, his task was not that easy. A large number of Turkish nobles and the slaves came from Central Asia and settled down in India. He had to fight with them and he has to show his superiority in India. Then, however, there was a Rajput also once again rose into power. Okay, Quacha declared himself, and yeah, by the time another ruler, Quacha, Qubacha, Quacha declared himself as an independent ruler in Multan, which was captured by Muhammad of Ghori. Okay, he seized Lahore, captured some part of Punjab, like that. Okay, there was no easy task for Iltutmish to rule Delhi. He faced a lot of problems. Iltutmish defeated a Rajput ruler of Ranthambore and Ujjain. He successfully crushed the power of his rival Yaldoz and Quacha, and then he became the ruler. That was the great success of Iltutmish. I hope it is easy. But another problem was that while Iltutmish was ruling, by the time in North India, we able to see the migration of Mongols for the first time. The Mongolia. In the last class also I told you, Mongol invasion. Mongol, I told you, between China and India, top of India, we have that Tibet top China. China and Russia, between China and Russia, there is a small country that was called as a Mongolia. From that part, these Mongols, they came, that's why they were called as a Mongol rulers or Mughal rulers. Based upon their country, they were called as a Mughal rulers. Anyhow, these Mongols are the Mughals. Chengiz Khan, for the first time, he invaded during this Iltutmish period. And Iltutmish will very carefully watch the situation, and then he saved the India from the threat of Mongol invasion during that time, 1100, 1211, and like that. His policy refused to give shelter to the Shah of Persia. Okay, and if you see the contribution of Iltutmish, as I told you, Qutbuddin Aibak started the construction of Qutub Minar, which was completed by Iltutmish. He had, Iltutmish was a great builder. He had a Qutub Minar at Delhi completed. He built mosque at Badawan and a tomb at the sandstone tomb at Delhi. Anyhow, they were the Muslim rulers and they contributed according to their religion. Iltutmish nominated his daughter Rajia Sultana as the ruler of next descendant. She was the first ever uh, Delhi Sultanate woman ruler. Ancient period we have Gargi, Maitri, like that. And during that time in South India, few Danti Durga, like that, few rulers we have in the South India. But in the North India, the strongest ruler for the first time, woman ruler was none other than Rajia Sultan. After the Rajia Sultan, again we will see, of course, not direct ruler, but who influenced the administration. She was none other than Nur Jahan. Okay, so please remember the very rare opportunity we gave in the administration of women, role of women in the administration. Among that very rare people, one is the Rajia Sultan. Okay, after the death of Iltutmish, Rajia became the ruler. Okay, Rukuddin, worthless Rukuddin, he was soon removed from the throne. But Regia, when he came to power, she came to power after the death of Iltutmish, he declared that Regia Sultan, but it was not that easy for Regia Sultana to conquer, because by that time one of the noble, he was called as the Rukuddin, who wanted to capture the throne. He became the ruler also, but later on Regia defeated that Rukuddin and became the ruler of India in 1236 AD. Unfortunately, she ruled only 4 years, 1236 to 1240. 3 minutes left over. Let us complete fast. She had all quality of good ruler. She had number of visitors, noble rulers. She made the throne of Delhi a strong support, and she governed with a lot of experience what he learned from the earlier, and she able to defeat some of the rebels. And unfortunately, she had one war finally defeated and put into death in 1240. Thus, the short rule of talented Queen Rajia Sultan came into end. After the Rajia Sultana, there was no proper ruler in the India during that the Delhi Sultanate. Little bit confusion and lot of generals they wanted to rule India. There was no strong administration. This period continued till 1240 to 1246. In 1246, once again we able to see Nasiruddin, one of the ruler, 1246 to 1266. He became the ruler Nasiruddin Muhammad, the youngest son of Iltutmish, ascended the throne with the help of Balban. But unfortunately, this Balban was these all are the workers, or we can say slave. Qutbuddin was the slave of Muhammad Bukhari. Iltutmish, from slave to he became the son-in-law. After that, this Nadir Shah, Nasiruddin, and Nasiruddin had one slave. He was none other than Balban, and Balban also became the ruler by killing Nasiruddin. So as the slaves became the rulers, that's why to remember easily, our Indian historians they mention this entire dynasty as the slave dynasty. But I told you it is the Ilbari dynasty as they came from the Ilbar region of Turk. Please remember Ilbari dynasty. Okay. This Nasiruddin a little bit weak. He unable
Will
to
join again, sir?
inexperience. Yeah, definitely, ma'am.
Yeah.
1 minute is left over.
Right.
Sure. Okay, children, we'll join again. We'll start with Nasiruddin.
Yes, sir. Yes.